Hey guys, a couple of you have been asking how to add a uh, building to the topography imported from SketchUp in a very accurate way. Um, there is no easy way to do this in Revit, but there is a way there's one additional step you can do in SketchUp that will actually make it easier for you to locate your building on a topography. So the easiest way is, let's just add a location from SketchUp just like we did before. So we can pick any area. Let's say something like this. I will select that region, select near map, and let's go to digital globe. Actually, near map requires you to have registration. So here we go. And like we had before, we'll find the tags. So the tags are the layers, and we can actually turn off the snapshot and turn on the actual terrain. So there you go, our terrain here. It's a little bit all over the place, which is nice. So let's say that your building is let's say this one here, right? So what we need to do, we need to under tags, we just need to create a new one and say uh, building outline or a site outline. So we can, for example, now sort of say, okay, this is my building. And in SketchUp, when these things turn purple, that means that they're actually perpendicular to one another. So you just need to make sure that the first line you draw is fairly accurate, and then the rest can sort of follow fairly easily. So I'm just going to do this and extend this, and then just erase these two lines. There we go. Now, because we've done this on a terrain, what we get is uneven line work, right? All over the place. So what we need to do, we need to go back up here, turn off the terrain, leave the snapshot on because that's a 2D and everything is flat. So then we go to the line and we draw it from there. So we do one of these, perpendicular, something like this, whatever the building shape is. And so for this, I just select that and then we can trace it over into here. If it doesn't work, just overdo it like this. Go back to this one and then just draw and intersect and then just use erase or E to delete this and leave that as that. And basically with this in mind, we can then do the same. And if I go say, so let's say site outline. So you can select all of this work that we've done so far, and you can sort of see that under the tag, under entity info, it still says untagged. So we just need to make sure that this is selected and placed on the building outline. And then the new one, so let's say this is a site itself. So we can just imagine that it's something like this. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to delete the surface and just leave the line work. And the line work is going to be site outline. There we go. So that means if I turn the site outline layer or tag, it's there, and the building outline, all of that. And I'm going to change, you know what, I'm actually going to delete the surface as well. Or we can just change the surface to be the building outline as well. But in this case, I think it's not really necessary. We'll just leave this. And basically then we turn back the terrain and we can turn off the snapshot flatness. And there you go. If your lines are below the ground, so let's say if your lines were here somewhere, just select them and make sure that you find the blue line and press shift. That will actually lock it into the Z axis and just shift it upwards until it's sort of up in the air. You can position it where you want manually like this, or just make sure it's higher up, makes no difference because that location can be adjusted in Revit afterwards. And then we go file, um, export or save as a 3D model, and we will go desktop, and we'll just save that as map number 2, very original. There you go, AutoCAD is done. So then we go back to our previous model. So let's say we go back to the site. Make sure you save often. I'm saying no to save because this is just a tutorial, but you should definitely save it very often. All right, so we go back to Insert tab. We go to LinkCAD. In this case, I'll go import. We'll go back to my desktop folder. Where was I? Here we go. Map number 2. Turn off correct lines. And we insert this. And like we had before, that's our topography. And you can now see that this is where our building is, and this is where the site is. Even though we don't have any textures, because of the actual topography itself, we can do this fairly easily. So now, if you remember it from last few times, we go to Topo Surface, we go create from import and select instance, select our CAD file. And now with these, we only select the terrain, deselect all of these other ones. So you can see that there's now building outline and the site outline we created. We don't really need that. We just need the terrain itself. And then we go okay, okay. And this is our terrain. And now going back to the site, we can position our building into there, or just draw the building in that location if you haven't done it previously. So when you're drawing this, you will see that it's starting from the center line, and that's because this one here, the location line is set to center line. If we select this to be a finished face exterior, it will be exactly on that side. So then we can do this manually, or we can go pick a line, select all of these, and what do? We tab to change select. And by moving your cursor to the opposite side of that line, you can actually specify where the wall is going to go. In this case, I want the wall to go inside like this, and I click on there once, and there we go. Our floors, our walls, sorry, are exactly on that line there. And then for the boundary, the easiest way to find the boundary and make it stick in these different views is to use it proper, which means you go back to massing and site, and then there's the where are we? There's the property line in there. So property line, go create by sketching, and again we go to pick a line tab, and then you get this sort of line, which is like a dashed line. And now for this, you can select sub-region. Again, you can select this like so. So that will allow us to have this as a different color as well. So we can sort of say, and now after you do all of this, you can just go and select the CAD file and either hide it or temporarily delete it. I'm just going to hide it for now, makes no difference really. We select that area there. We can select this and say this is going to be a site. So let's say I'm just going to pick a random element there. Okay, and consistent or realistic colors, and there we go. Now we have our normal topography, and then we have our specific site map there with our building there. I'm just going to recreate the roof. So there's this little, if you already have a line, if you already have an element, whether that's a door, window, a wall, or a roof, if you click on this one here, it will create a similar or object of that same type. So rather than me, because I'm being lazy, rather than me going to architecture and click on the roof, I can just select this existing roof, click on create a similar. Um, Okay, so there's giving me an error. So it doesn't always work because of what we've done last time in the other tutorial sessions, it stuffs up that recreation. But if you selected your wall, you could go create equal, and you can actually then draw another wall. So we'll have to go manual way, roof, of course. So we will need to set our work plane to be a normal level, so just a roof level there. And now, of course, when we select our roof, it will actually be able to do it. We click on the pick walls. We select all of these walls, it's there. I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to say, just for kicks and giggles, 600 overhang. And here we go. How does this compare to our SketchUp? Well, probably not very well because the roof is quite different. I think there's two gable roofs. As you can see, there's two triangles there and there. So that can be done when you sort of probably go into Street View. You can sort of see it a little bit better. Or of course, you'll have much better, clearer imagery so you can actually see what's happening and you can do it accordingly. So for example, if you were going to do that, you would create something like this with a small gap, let's say 10 mil. So we go there, we go there, we go 10 mil, and then we push it back. We push it back to this side here. I'm just going to go consistent colors. We can actually see a little bit better what we are doing. So we split this line. So basically what we're trying to do is create two separate roofs that are looking quite similar. And we want to make sure, so this line here should be undefined. So what we want to do, we want to make sure that this line, and this line are all angled, which is true. So now when I do this, you can't do it. And why? We will see that in a second. The reason being, sometimes this needs to be slightly increased to make it work. And if it doesn't work again, most likely some of these other ones are causing the issue, so we'll need to play with these and turn them on and off until it works. Okay, let's see this. So this is a trial and error. Clearly, you have to do this if you have a very complex roof. So that's not what we want. We want, okay, so it could be that the actual slope is far too great. So I'm just going to go 15 degrees. Yeah, it doesn't want to cooperate. So I'm just going to increase this to a much larger area and we'll probably have to split this into several different slopes. I'm just trying to be quick and lazy. All right, fine. So if you happen to run into this problem, don't just cancel and delete the whole roof because we already started on it. Copy it. So select all the lines, do Control C, and then cancel it. Leave it as it was, and then just literally do copy and paste of this one as well. So copy and then align to same place. So that will actually give you two different ones. So you can double click on this one and just ensure you are doing this, okay? Make sure you sort of split up your roof into smaller segments that actually make sense. So we can do it something like this. Now you can't have two separate roofs, so you have to do one by one. So we can delete it like this. Um, you can do this, and then for this one here, we can modify and I'll go, of course, this is the old one, so we just need to sort of again select the other side like so and select all the others and delete them. So we have that, and then we can align to same place and copy that roof again, and we can then start modifying the other bits and bobs. So let's say something like this, and then this can be removed. What happened there? So select this one, select this one, and I'll select this one to be a defined slope. Okay, so you get this, it's telling you that these lines cannot intersect and they're usually selected orange, right? So you just have to go continue and then you have to, most likely we have a duplicate line. Oh, there you go, see that little sucker there? So you have two lines by mistake. So you just need to start selecting like this until you can actually find the line in question and delete that guy. And there you go. So then for this one here, I just want to define a slope in this direction as well, like so. You can define the direction in this line like so. And then you can start modifying these other ones to suit. In this case, I don't know even what is this one here. So this is just a normal gable roof going into the side. So you can see that this is the triangle there, continuing all the way up to there. So okay, so let's try and do that. So we can select all of this and select this line to be a defined slope, and then these lines should be open. So something like this. Except clearly that is not 30, so maybe let's say it's 15, but clearly it can't be 15. You know why? Because with these roofs need to connect into, let me just delete the other building on in the background so it doesn't confuse you guys. Oops, there we go, delete us. Excellent. So now with this, if I go into the side view, you can see that these roofs are actually higher, taller than the other one, which means they can't actually connect into it. So that means either these need to be lowered, so these need to be 15 degrees or something. So then we get something like this. And now we have this interesting little function. So first of all, clearly this roof here is is taller than the others. So if you need to adjust it due to the actual heights, you can. So you can lower this one to be there. And then basically with here, if we select one of these, there's this join unjoin roof. So in this case, it will ask you to select an edge, and then it will ask you to select a surface. And if I do this, it gives me this, right? So to replicate this again, we select any one of these surfaces, and then at the edge, and then the surface, and we get this. And you can see that this one is actually cut into it. It's cutting around that surface of that larger roof. And there you go. You get your roof, which is what you were hoping to get here. You can see what I mean. It's sort of there. This part here has another small bit here, which is exactly the same as these. They connect into the main roof, but basically that's the gist of it, right? And that's how you do the topography. If you want to modify topography itself, again, like I said, if you double click on it, um, hide that. So if I go back to here, you can select that edit surface. Sometimes if you double click, it doesn't work. You have to go edit surface. It really depends on your Revit installation and some of the graphical settings, but don't worry about that. There's always a few different ways to do it. So good old Revit is here. We can now start modifying these points individually, like I mentioned before, to whatever you think is correct. This is very slow and tedious. So hopefully, you can do it differently than this. One of the easiest ways to do it in Revit, in SketchUp, sorry, by using a modify vertices, but we can cover that in a later stage. In this one here, I always recommend you go in and you do the building pad if you need a flatness area. If you need a more of a sort of road elements or to draw stuff on, I would suggest you use a sub-region, just like we did for the site. You can then go and um, further complicate your topography by being silly and creating your roads. So in this case, I'm just going to do something like this. I'm going to go offset, select my offset to be, let's say, good at 6 meters and select it like so. And then just select these. And if I can't select it or intersect it, click tab a few times until you can actually snap onto it like this. And that surface there can be done something like this. Again, because this is outside of the topography, it makes no difference what you draw. It just needs to close off. And this, I'm just going to trim this, TR for trim. You get something like this, all right? And that one can be a different material. I'm going to choose oak flooring because why not? And there you go. A nice little topography that can be adjusted to suit by doing a section through the building like we discussed earlier. So I'm just going to draw this one here and change the extent, go into that section. Here we go. So that's your CAD file, just hide that one and then you can see where the topography actually is. You can switch to thick lines here so you can see that cutting line a little bit more and then select that topography as a whole. Move it up and down until you are happy. So let's say this is where our ground floor is going to be, or you always pick the worst case scenario, in this case something like this, and that needs to be aligned. And then you do the building pad as shown earlier, and there you go. That's your beautiful little building and topography, and situated in a proper location based on your SketchUp import. All right. Thanks guys.